This is as delicious as a bowl of Martha Stewart's one-pot pasta. Yes, the lifestyle genius has just scored the ultimate revenge on a certain Meghan Markle, brutally exposing her, ironically, via the Sussex propaganda organ People magazine.
Martha Stewart said one small thing this month, and it has not stopped moving since. In a People interview published on the 5th of August, she mentioned seeing Meghan at a dinner party just back from the palace, talking about it. Within days, sources close to Meghan pushed back and said Stewart had simply got confused. Confused. Hold that word, because it is the exact word that turned up in a completely different argument about this family. One that has run for 8 years. One that nobody has ever connected to a dinner party in California. And it changes everything you think you know.
Now, this is interesting. Martha Stewart and Meghan Markle, there seems to be a bit of a war of words happening at the moment. Now, Martha Stewart apparently claimed that the Duchess had been discussing her
8 years later. Because here's the thing about that word. When somebody close to Meghan reached for confused to explain away Martha Stewart, they picked a word with history attached to this family. And to see why, you have to go back 8 years to an argument that has nothing to do with dinner parties.
I had dinner with Meghan Markle the other night at a dinner party, and I didn't talk to her really more than to say a couple words.
Let me tell you where we actually stand, because you deserve the honest version before anything else. The documented record says August the 4th, 1981, West Park Hospital, Canoga Park, out in the San Fernando Valley. Fact checkers have gone through the age claim already, and they rated it false. That should have ended it. It did not end it. Every August, the whole thing comes back, and the comment sections fill up again with people counting backwards. Now, I could tell you those people are simply wrong, and we could all go home. That has been tried, repeatedly, by better funded operations than this one, and it has never worked once. So, I want to ask a different question. Not, is the rumor true? Why does it survive? Because a story does not run for 8 years on nothing. It needs fuel. Something in the record has to keep handing these people a reason to come back. Or it would have burned out by 2019 like every other royal rumor you have already forgotten. Something is feeding it. And here's the part almost nobody on either side of this will admit to you.
Martha Stewart might not like that. You know, she's a tough old bee. And I say that respectfully. And she got asked about Meghan Markle.
What is feeding it is real. The magazine page. Start with the thing that started it. 17 magazine, March 1997. There is a page listing a Meghan Markle in Los Angeles as 21 years old. If that number is right, the birth year lands somewhere around 1976. That single page is the engine of this entire theory. Everything else you have ever seen argued about this. The classmates, the photograph comparisons, the timeline threads, all of it is scaffolding built around that one page. And I understand why it works on people. It looks like a document. It has a date printed on it. It sits there in an archive being quietly certain of itself, and certainty is contagious. It also arrived from outside the family, which is the part that really sells it. Everything else here comes from people with a stake in the outcome. A magazine page from 1997 has no stake in anything. But think about what it actually is. A listing in a magazine is not something she filed. It is not a form she signed. Ages in print get wrong all the time, and anybody who has ever been described in a publication knows exactly how casually that number gets handled. Still, it is genuinely strange. I am not going to pretend otherwise, and I am not going to skip past it because it complicates the tidy version. But the page alone was never enough to sustain 8 years of argument. A theory needs corroboration. And this one found some in the last place you would expect, her own family. The sisters' paperwork, Samantha Markle, reported born November 1964. She wrote a book. In it she gives the year 1981, which matches the official record exactly. Her own estranged sister put that year into print. Say that part plainly because people who quote this book tend to skip it. But the same book places the arrival at the end of the month, not the 4th, the end. Then there is the defamation filing, where the age gap between the sisters is stated as 17 years. 17 is the number people reach for whenever they want this settled. Count it yourself.
I wouldn't want to be beleaguered with an older, ill person. The older you get, the less you really need a mate, I think.
November 1964 to August 1981 is 16 years and 8 months, not 17, rounded upward in a legal document about her own sister. 2 wobbles, neither one enormous. Both real, both sitting in documents anybody can pull, and there is a 3rd one in her own words. If you are finding this useful, hit subscribe before you carry on, because the second half is where the timeline actually starts breaking, and I would rather you did not miss it. Siblings out of order. In 2018, a private email surfaced in court. In it, her father's other children are described as being 15 and 17 when her parents separated. Except Samantha, reported born November 1964, is the older of the 2. Her brother was born in 1966. The older sibling gets the smaller number. They are the wrong way round. And this is not me squinting at something in bad faith to manufacture a mystery. The fact checkers who went through all of this noticed the same thing and said so in print, describing the ages as somewhat confused. Read that carefully, because this is the moment the whole argument turns. The same people who examined every one of these discrepancies and who wrote down that the ages looked confused still rated the age claim false. There is that word again. 3 inconsistencies on the record, 1 clear verdict. Both of those things are true at the same time, and the fact that they can both be true is the single most misunderstood thing in this entire argument. Because people see a fact check, acknowledge a discrepancy, and assume the acknowledgement is the story. It is not. Noticing a wobble and concluding a cover-up are 2 completely different operations, and only one of them requires evidence. So, how does anyone get from the first to the second? And more importantly, how did thousands of people get stuck halfway? How rumors eat? Here is the mechanism, and once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it anywhere else either. Take any one of those wobbles on its own, and it is nothing. A book gets a date slightly wrong. Families misremember. My own mother has told the story of my birth with 3 different weather conditions in it. A legal filing round 16 years and 8 months up to 17. Lawyers round. Everyone rounds. A private email written in an emotional moment reverses 2 siblings. If you have ever had to place your own relatives on a timeline under pressure, you know how easily that happens. Now stack them. Put all 3 in a row. Read them one after another, and something changes in your head that has nothing to do with evidence. 3 small errors stop feeling like 3 small errors. They start feeling like a pattern, and a pattern feels like intent. That is not analysis. That is arithmetic performed on your own suspicion, and it works on everybody, by the way. This is not a royal problem or an internet problem. It is how the human head handles a list. 3 unrelated things in a row start looking like 3 connected things, because a pattern is easier to hold than 3 separate accidents. Here is the test I would put to anybody. Take your own family, your parents' meeting, your siblings' ages, the year your grandmother moved,
We don't believe it because we already know the history. We know how Meghan shows up. We've been seeing it and talking about it for years.
Write it all down from memory, then check it against the actual documents. I promise you will find 3 things that do not match. Nobody's family paperwork survives this kind of audit. Nobody's. And let me draw a line here while we are on it. Doria Ragland, reported born September the 2nd, 1956, in Cleveland, Ohio, has never been part of this debate. She has never made a claim about it, never argued about it, never involved herself in it. She is a private person, and she owes no one an answer. She is not a witness anybody is entitled to. The children stay out of this completely. None of it was their decision, and they have no place in the conversation. Not here, not ever. So that is the case for messy paperwork. But suppose you do not buy it. Suppose you think 3 errors is 3 too many, and the magazine page is exactly what it looks like. Fine. Then let us do the one thing almost nobody arguing about this has ever bothered to do. Let us follow the theory through and see where it lands. Test the theory. If she was born in 1976 or 1977, what else has to be true? Not vaguely true, specifically true, because a birth year is not a number floating on its own. It sits inside a family, and that family has its own documented timeline. So look at what her parents were doing and notice that this part of the story has never been the contested part. Nobody disputes it. It has been told the same way, in the same order, for years, by people who otherwise agree on nothing. So look at what her parents were doing. The accounts describe them meeting in the late 1970s at a studio where her father worked as a lighting director and her mother had a temporary job. Then a romance of roughly 6 months. Then a wedding. And the wedding has a precise date. December the 23rd, 1979, at a temple on Sunset Boulevard. Work backwards 6 months from that December ceremony, and their first meeting lands somewhere around the middle of 1979. Hold that year in your head. Mid-1979. Now put the theory next to it. Before the beginning. A birth in 1976 is roughly 3 years before her parents are documented to have met. Read that again, because the ordinary version of this argument is that a baby arrived before a wedding, and people shrug at that because babies arrive before weddings constantly and always have. That is not what this says. Not before the marriage, before the introduction, before the studio job, before her mother took that temporary position, before the lighting department and the makeup department were ever in the same building on the same afternoon. 2 people who had not met produced a child, and it is worth being specific about how far apart those 2 things sit. This is not a few weeks of slack in a timeline where somebody might have fudged a courtship to look respectable. It is years. Whole years in which, according to every account of this family that exists,
I don't think Meghan particularly wants to build any bridges with the UK or the royal family here. She's brought the children over because she wanted to support Harry and she wanted like him.
These 2 people were strangers living separate lives in a city of millions. And that is not a counting error. You cannot get there by rounding, by misremembering, by a magazine intern typing the wrong figure into a caption. For a 1976 birth to be real, the meeting has to be invented. The 6-month romance has to be invented. The temple on Sunset Boulevard has to be invented. The wedding date in December of 1979 has to be invented. Someone would have had to sit down and fabricate an entire family origin story out of nothing, and do it in the 1970s, decades before there was a single reason on earth to bother. Before the acting career, before the legal drama, before anybody had heard of any of these people. A cover story built for a scandal that would not exist for another 40 years. That is what the theory quietly asks you to accept. The magazine page asks you to believe in a typo. That is easy, and typos are everywhere. And if that were the whole claim, I would still be sitting on the fence with you. But the timeline asks you to believe in a conspiracy that predates its own motive by 4 decades. Those are not the same size of claim. They are not even close. And there is one more thing sitting on the record that people who argue this never bring up. Her own words. In 2015, long before any of this was a royal story, she was an actress promoting a legal drama, and she was asked about her age. Her answer is almost never repeated in full, and the full version is the whole point. She explained that actresses are advised never to give their age, that the industry treats women as though they have a shelf life. She laid out the exact incentive for concealment, clearly on the record, and then she gave the number anyway. 33. Sit with the shape of that for a second. If somebody is running a 4-year deception about her age, the very last thing she does is volunteer the figure in a magazine interview. And she certainly does not first explain to you why women in her position have a reason to lie about it, and then hand you the number in the same conversation. That is not how concealment behaves. Concealment stays quiet. Concealment declines the question, or gives a vague answer, or changes the subject. She explained the incentive to hide, then declined to hide. Why it won't die. So here's where this actually lands, and it is not where either side usually wants it. The rumor is not stupid. That is the thing I keep coming back to. There is a magazine page nobody has cleanly explained, a book with the wrong day, a filing that rounds, an email that reverses 2 siblings. Those are all genuinely on the record, and anyone who tells you the paperwork is pristine has not read it. But messy paperwork is not a hidden birth year. It is a family, remembering imperfectly, under more scrutiny than any family should ever get. And the theory built on top of it does not survive 1 hour with a calendar, because it requires a child to arrive before her parents ever met. I think that is why it will not die, honestly. Not because the evidence is strong, because the story is more satisfying than the answer. A clerical error is boring. A decades-long secret is a great night in. I read your comments. I know which one of those most people would rather be true. So, tell me your verdict below. Do you think this rumor survives because the paperwork genuinely is messy? Or because a story this good is simply too satisfying to let go of? I read every comment, and one of yours sent me down this path in the first place. Hit the like button. It helps this channel reach more people who care about these stories. And subscribe, because there is plenty more coming this week.